the polls that were in this morning's Irish Independent, and they're very interesting because it looks like Sinn Féin are down 2% votes, and
if you believe the polls,
Fine Gael are down 2% votes, and Sinn Féin are up 2% votes. So that should be very interesting. The overall look at the moment is 22% Fine Gael, 20 Sinn Féin, 20 Fianna Fáil. So they're neck and neck. Independents 19%. So literally nearly 1 in 5 independents and others.
And whose poll is this now, Mike? This is Sunday Independent.
Sunday Independent's poll, yeah. And you also have the TG Carr poll.
I don't know if I pay much attention to the Sunday Independent poll at all now, but anyway.
Is that because you think they're biased towards the bigger parties?
I think their accuracy generally tends to be pretty poor when it comes down to the actual election.
Isn't there a certain percentage on the accuracy, Neil? Is it plus?
Yeah, well, they say plus or minus 3, but I mean, I've seen situations where, they get it wildly wrong. It goes a lot more than 3%.
That's true. That's true.
It's quite common. For example, Sinn Féin last time, the polls were telling us one thing, but the reality was completely different.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, the reality was different around the country when it came down to it,
Okay.
So, I mean, but having said that, the polls are interesting, and they get the shape of...
They give you an indication,
I think. They give you some sort of indication,
exactly.
Like, so you're not going to get 20% and then get 0.
No, I know what you're saying.
You might get sort of 15 or...
Well, what I find an interesting one there is Aintu are at 5%. Now, Aintu, because the Pedro Tobin seem to appeal to a lot of people. And I just wonder, is it possible they could take maybe 2 or 3 seats with 5%? What do you reckon?
I think actually, I think we should use what they call the eye test as well.
Lovely.
Which is what you've been out talking to people on the streets.
Yeah.
I've been out talking to people on the streets. I mean, we're talking to other political people. We're talking to our friends, our families, whoever.
Absolutely.
People are wise. They know how they're going to go.
Yeah.
They don't always tell the pollsters exactly everything accurately.
Exactly.
In fact, more and more.
I agree.
So.
Yeah.
And if you're going to depend on social media for your analysis, forget it.
Yes.
Because that's full of politicos. It's full of chatbots. It's full of.
So it's very biased.
It's very biased.
Yeah. I got you.
So I would guess that Aintu are going to do very well because they've done. They're in the seats where they have a chance, and I think there's only 3 or 4 of them around the country.
I think so too.
I think they're going to do extremely well, and I think they'll pick up a few votes here and there across.
Yeah, now we've got Pádraig Lenihan in this ward this area.
You wouldn't give him a hope in hell, would you?
Well, I know Pádraig, and I think fair play to him.
Lovely guy. Yeah.
Fair play to him going forward for election.
I think he's going to have a very respectable vote now.
He did very well in the locals because he finished about 7th with quite a high vote. Now I think it's too much of a run this time. For him because he did, but maybe the next time we get to be county councillor.
I could see him getting 7th or 8th this time, maybe. But
that'd be very impressive.
It would be impressive, coming as the first time.
So Neil isn't too much into the polls, so we'll throw them out the window.
We won't. No, we'll listen to the polls, but I think we have to listen to our own past experience.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, we've fought lots of elections. Yeah,
what you're hearing on the ground.
Well, basically, what I'm hearing on the ground, it's about different candidates and how they're doing.
Well, go on.
I'll tell you what I'm hearing. Okay. So I'm hearing very good vibes with Catherine Connolly. Okay. I think Noel Grealish is a very, very solid support. I think that John Connolly is going to take the Fianna Fáil seat because he's done an awful lot of work on the ground.
And you think there is a Fianna Fáil seat?
There's a Fianna Fáil seat there.
Suggesting there'll be no seats for.
I'd be absolutely.
To be quite blunt, I think that's absolute.
Yeah, I think it's rubbish. I think it's rubbish.
For the birds.
Yeah, I mean, I think John Connolly would take it because he works hard on the ground. He's been a city councillor, I think, in the last 3 of the last 4 elections. He's been very prominent.
John actually reminds me of he reminds me. John and Gráinne Seoga are the 2 Fianna Fáil candidates.
Yes,
and the way they've set it up is Gráinne has sort of taken the Connemara sort of Eamon O'Queeve mantle, as it were.
Yeah,
and for many years, Fianna Fáil could have got 2 seats in this constituency.
Yeah.
But they didn't because O'Queeve got this huge big vote out in Connemara and the other candidate was too far back.
That's right.
Like John was only a whisker away from getting elected previously.
That's right.
And John is going to do better this time because, so I think there's a lot of validity. I think John is a very serious candidate.
He is.
And I think he'd make a very good politician.
I think he'd make a very, very good minister if he gets to that level, But I'll tell you one thing, we're talking about the Connemara vote, Neil. That's going to splinter, I reckon, from O'Queeve's vote's going to go a bit to Fianna Fáil. Noel Thomas.
the Connemara people are going to have a situation where there'll be nobody elected.
No. They'll certainly influence one of
So
them.
who are their candidates?
Well, I think their strongest candidate is probably Noel Thomas, and I'd call him a dark horse, but he's not because we're all talking about him. I think he's going to be pretty close. I don't think he'll win a seat.
I don't think he'll win a seat. I wouldn't rule him out on a very good day.
I think Noel Thomas could be the kingmaker. That's what I think.
He certainly is going to do well. There's no doubt about that. Whether you agree with his politics or whether you don't agree with his politics,
we'll see how many people agree with his politics after the poll.
I think he could do. I think he could be a real dark horse.
Yeah. I think he's going to determine really a couple of the seats, because I think where his vote goes, where will his vote go to? Like we talked about O'Quee's vote, certain amount of Gráinne Seoige. But the thing about Gráinne Seoige, I find, is that it looks like she's parachuted into the constituency.
Will he beat Gráinne Seoige?
John Connolly.
No.
Noel Thomas.
Will Noel Thomas beat Gráinne Seoige? He could.
He could. He's run a very strong campaign. You know, he was a county councillor, is a county councillor, and did very, very well there over the years.
But to be honest, he's taking votes from Connemara, really. I can't see him doing massively in the city, can you?
No, but I think there might be a vote in there for him, because people know him at this stage. You know, he's been very vocal on the immigrants. And, you know, is it the New Ireland Party, or what's this party called? Independent Ireland. There's so many of them knocking around at the moment. I lose track of all these, you know. I asked one question, though. How can you be an independent if you're in a party? Because the way I look at it is, you know, when I ran, I was independent. That's it. I wasn't an independent in Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, you know. So that's one thing I think is unusual. But what we have is groupings. And like we have 19% of the poll saying independence. Now, I think that's fairly accurate because they're always hovering around 20%, which means that you're going to get probably an independent in every ward if they run. Would you agree, Neil?
Well, look, we're going to get independents elected. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Absolutely none whatsoever.
Absolutely.
You know, because I mean, we have Catherine Connolly, who's the last Cairn Corla running. You and I both actually did a bit of an analysis earlier. Yeah. And we reckon that Catherine is probably in line to top the poll. Actually.
I think so. I
tend to think she is.
I think she will. Yeah.
And I think that the other one who would be very close will be Hildegard Napton myself.
Yeah, you think Hildegard's going to be close. I'd look at Noel Grealish because he's a very, very solid.
Noel is very solid as well.
Yeah.
But,
second or third seat.
Will he get the full independent vote though?
He might. He might, because he's much more vocal in the last Dáil, I believe, than he has been in the previous ones. And he's speaking out. I know from locally he's done an awful lot for the community centre here in Newcastle. He's been very vocal on that. And I like the fact that he's very strong on justice. You know, and I mean, the last day he was talking about repeat offenders and the way the justice system is very lenient. So I would agree on that big time with him.
And I see Mary Leahy, former councillor Mary Leahy, now has just written in there to our comments that John Connolly is being very well received on the doors.
Yeah, I believe.
I mean, look, John, to be honest, I sat beside John in the council before. I mean, John, very, very astute, hardworking, good politician. You know, there's no doubt about it. I'm going to give him a high vote myself now, you know. I'll be honest, it's not going to be number one, but it's going to be a high vote.
Well, we know where the number one is going to be, really, yeah?
You probably do.
Good morning, Pauline. I hope you're following us this morning, you know. Absolutely.
Look, I've been a Green voter for a very, very long time.
Yeah, well, you're going to stay consistent to them. Exactly.
But look, at the same time, you know, John Connolly, if he gets ahead of Gráinne Seoige, as far as I'm concerned,
which he will, I believe.
He gets a seat.
Yeah.
But I do think the people in Connemara are going to vote for they're going to make sure they have at least one person elected. Yeah. And they have three. How many people are there?
Well,
there's Noel Thomas, there's
in fairness, Catherine Connolly. Catherine Connolly gets a vote out there.
Connemara. No, she's not a Connemara.
But she might pick up a few of the votes.
Oh, she get a lot of the votes.
They have a family background there.
To pick up the votes.
Yeah.
With people who are from the area.
We're going to do really well.
I'm just saying that you know the people from Connemara are going to make sure that they
Gráinne Seoige, Noel Thomas,
three.
And
who are strong
and Sean Kine.
Yeah,
I think Kine could pull well.
Sean is going to be in the mix, definitely.
Some of the polls even show him taking a set, but a seat. I was thinking of tennis there for a second. But like, is it possible that you get two Fine Gael seats?
I don't think
I'd say unlikely, but it's possible. So. I mean, you reckon with full
I actually believe that there's more likelihood of two Fianna Fáil seats than two Fine Gael seats.
I can't see it.
I know that. And the polls will tell you that that Fine Gael are ahead at the moment. But traditionally, Fianna Fáil have been incredibly strong in this constituency.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
and yes, you're right,
seats.
Noel Thomas. But where are Noel Thomas's votes? They're not all going to go back
and he's
to Fine Gael.
They're
not going to go back to Fine Gael. You know, they'll go to.
Will they go back to Fianna Fáil though?
I think so.
With Connolly and with Doige.
Well, I mean, if Noel Grealish is still in the race, a lot of them will go to Noel Grealish.
That's true.
You know,
yeah.
So I think Noel. I think Noel. To me, there's three certainties.
Okay.
And one would be Catherine Connolly, one would be Noel Grealish, and the third one would be Hildegard Naughton.
Okay.
You know, and the question is,
I'd agree with you on those three.
Does Hildegard get enough votes? You know, do they split the vote properly? You know, if they split the vote well between.
You see, I think they will split the vote well, and
I don't think they will.
He went very well the last time.
I think she'll do extremely well.
Okay, and you're right.
And I think Sean will lose out as a result. I think he'll lose out on votes.
Yeah,
he's still got a chance. It depends.
He has still got a chance.
Fine Gael were down in the polls today.
They were, right? 2 percentage points.
I think Fianna Fáil are going to surprise everybody in this election.
Oh, I think they will.
And it's not because I love Fianna Fáil. It's because
the other
I just think that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
And I just think that the more this election goes on, the more people are seeing Micheál Martin as a credible Taoiseach compared to Simon Harris. Simon Harris is looking very flaky now.
Is the bonds gone at this stage?
That video with the carer did a lot of damage to him, you know, and he's backed it up by, you know, sort of digging the hole deeper for himself, really, you know.
Yeah.
And he's not coming across as a statesman. He's coming across as a lightweight,
right?
In my view, okay. And I have nothing against Simon Harris, absolutely, but that's just the way I see it in the election campaign, you know.
Yeah. So
Micheál Martin is coming across again. I'm not claiming that I love Micheál Martin.
There's a bit of the Jack Lynch factor about Micheál Martin.
He's coming across well.
I can imagine him having tea with nuns.
He's solid.
Like Jack Lynch used to do.
He won't embarrass
the country.
Solid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's true.
And people do look at it like that. They look, who's going to embarrass the country?
Yeah.
Who's going to, you know, do
Is
well?
Is this not a blip for Simon Harris?
Yeah, but you see, it's an election.
It's an election,
if it's a blip, it might be a blip. But I think, you see, the other thing is, you got to remember that all the talent in Fine Gael has gone. Do you know?
Well, a lot of it is
Most
gone,
of it has gone. Yeah, there's very little left.
That's true.
Most of the heavy hitters.
Simon Coveney, Varadkar,
Simon Coveney, a very astute
Jean Paul Phelan, all these kind of guys. Yeah.
All of these people.
It's a lot, but I suppose
Richard Bruton.
We're hanging on the fact that there is a percentage for Fine Gael, no matter who runs.
Well, that's absolutely true. But the point is, it'll be down a bit.
It'll be down. Okay. You know. So, do you think the run is on for Sinn Féin again? That their time and it's the right time to get in there, rising?
I think that Simon Harris was right to call the election when he did, from his own point of view, from the government's point of view. I think if they'd held on a bit longer, I think things might have changed quite a lot. You know, if he held on till March, you never know what sort of events are going to happen.
I'd be thinking the opposite. If I was him, I would have held off until March.
Well, he wanted to.
He did.
His party didn't.
That's right.
His party didn't, and Fianna Fáil didn't.
So I don't know if we say great minds or what. You know, I don't know if we put Simon up there. So anyway, let's get back to the seats. So we're both calling Catherine Connolly, Noel Grealish, Hildegard Naughton. Okay, I'm calling John Connolly and Mairead Farrell.
I'm calling a Fianna Fáil seat. Okay. I'm not going to say, you know,
who are you veering towards? I've
got my head and my heart.
Okay.
And my head says my heart says John Connolly, definitely. My head says possibly Gráinne Seoga.
And funny enough, I'd say most people see it the other way around. If you get
the head and the heart.
Yeah.
Why would your heart not be with John Connolly? With Gráinne, would it?
I think the head would be with John Connolly because he's going to get elected. That's what I feel very strongly.
But where would your heart be?
It wouldn't be there. I don't give my heart away that easily now.
Then don't bring the head and the heart.
No, it's the head that I go by, the grey matter, you know? And that's why I do think he'll win. And
the reason I say Gráinne
possibly
is because if it's one, but you see, I'm not ruling out 2 Fianna Fáil seats. I would rule out probably. I probably would say no to 2 Fine Gael seats, and I might be proven wrong on this.
Both candidates would have to poll well.
I can't see where. Well, in both cases, it's a difficult one.
It is, yeah.
And the seat they would have to take is the Sinn Féin seat.
You see, Sean Kine wasn't a million miles away the last time. If you look at it, I know I called
Sean Kine wasn't a million miles away last time. And the reason that Fianna Fáil weren't close was because of Cuiv had so many votes. He was so far ahead.
That's right.
Of his running mate,
yeah.
who was Ollie Crow.
And his story used to be, I'm in trouble. You know,
John Connolly nearly got elected. If Eamon O'Keefe could have taken 2,000 less votes, if he'd managed it, they would have both got in.
So, talking to you, Neil, you reckon that both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have managed the vote a lot better?
I think Fianna Fáil, by sheer dumb luck, are managing the vote better this time. Right. And the reason they are is because obviously the big vote was in Connemara. Yeah. It was for O'Keefe. Okay. But Gráinne Seoige is not going to get the O'Keefe vote.
Not all of it.
She's going to get some of it, but she won't get all of it. But John Connolly, on the other hand,
he'll take a little bit of it.
He'll get a little bit of it.
As will Catherine, because she got some votes there the last time. There is a family background.
So I could see a scenario where John Connolly gets elected. I certainly could. I think he deserves a seat.
If Noel Thomas does very well in Connemara and some of his vote goes back to Fianna Fáil, which is possible, because the gene pool is there. He wasn't Fianna Fáil before he left. Another very interesting one I was just thinking about there, Sean Kine. If I'm right in the last election, Neil, he lost an awful lot of votes in Oughterard. And he did because of Noel Grealish. Noel Grealish picked them up.
Yeah, but surely the same thing is going to happen again.
I don't know. I think Noel will do okay, but I think Sean Kine might do a bit better too, because there was a real backlash against him before the election.
So it depends whether people want to go for the government parties, whether they want to go for Fine Gael in particular, who've been there for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that's where you don't rule out Noel Thomas, because Noel Thomas has been involved in various things that could give him a massive boost there. Yeah. And if Noel somehow could get votes, Noel Thomas now could get votes.
Everybody knows about him at this stage. Whereas they didn't when he was a councillor at the start. No. Okay, so we're kind of saying probably Fianna Fáil for the fourth seat, which
I think Fianna Fáil are this idea that Fianna Fáil are going to get no seats.
Oh no, they'll get a seat. That's right.
Because if one gets elimination, the other one will get elected.
And if you look at the poll, if you're looking roughly at Fine Gael 22, Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin 2020, that's a seat for each of those. Isn't that right? If they stick too close to the polls, if they don't go more than 3 or 4% down, they'll take the seat.
Both of them are kind of short. It depends on what first preference they get, but both of them are kind of short of the. They'll need 34 percentage points, right?
To get two.
Yeah. That's what the quota is.
That's huge. Yeah, I don't see any of them getting.
If Fine Gael are going to end up on about 22%, 23%,
that's not enough for 2 seats.
They've got a long battle ahead. I can't see who the hell is going to transfer to Fine Gael. I can see who's going to transfer to Fianna Fáil.
I do too. Yeah, they're more open to it. So what about the fifth seat, Neil? Who are you calling for the fifth seat?
Well, the fifth seat is going to be an almighty scrap. And if I had to put money on it, what I would say is we're going to get the same again. Yeah. We're going to get Sinn Féin elected again. Okay. I think Sinn Féin have the edge, and I think Mairead Farrell. She's been a reasonably good TD locally. At a local level.
She's chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee at this stage. That's a big one.
Got her name out there. She's been in the media quite a lot. She's a solid enough TD.
It was a very strange story that she won a council seat, lost a council seat, and then got into the Dáil.
It is a very strange story, yeah.
Would I be right in saying she was second after the first count in the last election to O'Keefe?
She was.
Wasn't she?
Sorry, I think she was. Did she top the poll?
I think that's what happened. And it was a shock to most people. Yeah, it was one or the other.
It was close enough.
So again, I'm looking at the fifth seat, and given the percentages today, like Sinn Féin are obviously coming up a little bit. If they were dropping more, you'd worry about it. But I reckon she'll take a seat. It might be higher than the fifth seat. Might be higher than the fifth seat.
Oh, of course it
could. That's the 5 I would go for. What do you think?
Well, unfortunately, we seem to be of the same mind. It's 1, 2, 3, Fianna Fáil. And the question is,
it could be said we gauge opinion pretty well.
You're saying John Connolly.
Absolutely.
I'm saying it's going to be very tight between John Connolly and Gráinne Seoige.
Hildegard and Sean Kine?
Well, Hildegard is certainly going to be ahead.
Okay.
And so therefore,
and she has the bonus of being a minister.
I'm not giving Sean Kine a seat.
Well, you see, I think the fact that Hildegard is a minister means a lot to the people.
Well, of course it does. And that's the point. She's going to get the big vote. In the city. There's no doubt about it. And she's from Oranmore. She'll get a big Fine Gael. There is a big Fine Gael vote.
There is a big Fine Gael vote.
So, I can't see Hildegard not getting elected.
I think she'll get elected. I think if the government were performing better in people's eyes, she could have been pushing for the poll topper.
Now, I'm going to put it to you this, that There's basically groups of seats. One is a Conservative group of seats.
Okay.
Basically, there's three of them. There's 3 seats there for them.
Okay.
And there's 2 in the. Currently, they were held by Eamon O'Queeve, Hildegard Naughton, and Noel Grealish.
Yeah.
Would be the sort of Conservative grouping, and I think they're going to keep the 3 seats, right?
Yeah.
The question is, if we're saying that Hildegard and Noel Grealish are both sure shots, that only leaves 1 seat. In that group. So we can't have a situation where Noel Thomas and Gráinne Seoga and John Connolly are all going to get elected, you know. So I see really it's between the seat is up for grabs, between the 3 of them. Between the 3 of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I go for Connolly on it. I wonder, is there an outside
Sean Kine I'm putting in that group as well. It's 4.
I wonder, yeah. I mean, we haven't spoken about Pauline O'Reilly of the Greens, who's a senator. Or that's from Labour.
What I was just getting to, because the other grouping is the 2 seats are held at the moment by Mairead Farrell and Catherine Connolly. I would see the grouping that would include them, and that the votes would transfer quite strongly.
Similar votes
would be people like Helen Ogbu. Like you know, we haven't even mentioned the Social Democrats at all. Do you even know who's running for the Social Democrats?
Evelyn Ishogte. Yeah.
Now, Evelyn is a local councillor, and
I gotta say, Neil,
do well nationally.
I never heard of her before the locals, and I was amazed she won the seat.
Because she hasn't run a strong campaign.
Yeah. But there must be a Social Democrat vote there in Galway.
But there is a strong Social Democrat vote.
Yeah.
There is. It's just the way I would see it is Helen Ogbu of Labour, Pauline O'Reilly, and Evelyn are all very close to each other. They'd all be close to Catherine. They'd all be close to. They'd be close enough to Mairead, who kind of straddles both camps.
It'd be interesting if the Labour vote went up and Helen Ogbu polled well. Now I think she'll poll well.
I think she'll poll well. I think all of those people will poll well.
Yeah.
You know, but who's going to come out on top of the 3 lower ones? You know, and they'll be Pauline O'Reilly from the Greens. There'll be Helen Ogbu. And there'll be Evelyn. And I think
so you're really talking about transfers.
I know I'm slightly biased, but I think Pauline is going to come out on top of those 3.
Okay.
And the thing is, they will transfer well to each other.
Are you saying you think she has a chance of the seat?
I think Pauline would be a long shot, and I think others would have to cock it up in order for that to happen. But you see, the seat that she could take would be the Sinn Féin seat.
Okay. So, are you saying you reckon Mairead Farrell?
The reason I say that is Mairead Farrell. And this is the fear I would have for Sinn Féin, is that Mairead will get a reasonably good vote. But if she's on 12 or 13%, where are transfers coming from?
I would say the parties you've mentioned, like Labour,
they will, some of them, but they'll transfer much more strongly to each other.
And what about all the people? We've not so much written them off, but we don't think they're going to be in the running for it. And just to mention them anyway, because they are running, and I always say fair play to the candidates for running.
Absolutely.
You and I know what that's all about.
I think 17 candidates.
17 candidates.
Which is quite normal for Galway West, actually.
I'm looking at it. Maisie McMaster, People Before Profit.
Will Maisie poll well?
Her transfers will go to Sinn Féin, I would think.
Some of them may.
But
Maisie, I think, will poll well enough. You know, I think there is a reasonable vote.
And of course, they'd go to Catherine Connolly. Because of her,
if Catherine needs them,
if she needs,
Catherine is going to do.
Catherine get in on the first count at this stage. Pádraig Lenihan, we've spoken about it. Aintu, first time out, solid candidate, great family, great family background.
Whether they like it or not, some of them will go to Sinn Féin. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
you know, and I think Aintu are going to do quite well.
I could see Pádraig polling the highest of all those lower candidates. Because I think he ran a good campaign the last time. He's been fairly vocal.
I don't think so, but
you don't think so?
Differ on that.
We will, because I think he'll be ahead of McMaster. I think he'll be ahead of.
Oh, sorry. I thought when you say lower candidates,
you thought I mentioned Pauline O'Reilly. No. So then we got Doireann McMahon, the Irish Freedom Party. Do you know anything about Doireann?
Not a lot.
No, a lot.
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
And there will be a vote, but not a big one. I think. I don't see.
Anthony Cahill. The Irish people.
Cahill,
AJ, you remember him before.
He's got a good local vote, I would think.
But it's very Salt Hill based, I would think.
Very Salt Hill based. I could see AJ polling in 4
figures. AJ didn't run in the locals this year, did he?
I can't remember whether AJ ran.
But he ran before. I know he ran before. Yeah.
I think he'll poll reasonably well.
That's about it, really, for the candidates. So if you were to wrap it up, Neil, so are we in agreement that it's Catherine Connolly, Noel Grealish, Hildegard Naughton?
Stop.
Okay, I'm gonna go two more.
Fianna Fáil.
John Connolly and Mairead Farrell. That's my neck
Yeah,
out.
well, I would say the three I would definitely give, and then
hazard a guess at two.
Well, then I'm saying a Fianna Fáil candidate.
Okay,
it could be either Grania or John.
You haven't given up on Grania taking a seat, so she's
no, I haven't. No,
okay.
I haven't.
Okay,
no. And I haven't given up on Fianna Fáil taking 2 seats either.
I'd be amazed to do 2 seats.
It would be quite a stretch.
And I think I'd also be surprised if Mairead Farrell lost the seat, having done so well the last time, as you say, having a higher profile. And if they're near 20% in the polls,
this is it. But I mean,
she will transfer. I think
a massive collapse in the local elections.
But that happened the last time as well.
It wasn't as
we lost all 3 local councillors, remember, including Mairead Farrell.
Absolutely.
It really went down.
And there is a Sinn Féin councillor.
I think, did they go up in the local elections this year? Did their percentages go up a bit?
Their percentages were slightly better than last time in terms of candidates.
Okay.
Or in terms of elected councillors.
Yeah.
But that was over a very low base. But the point is they've been riding very high in the polls nationally.
Yeah, that's right.
And they went way down.
So last question on the general election before we move on to questions from the viewers would be, which party do you reckon will have the highest amount of seats after election 2024?
I'm going to stick my neck out and say it's actually going to be Fianna Fáil.
I would agree.
Would you?
Yeah, I don't think your neck is too far out there. I think it will be Fianna Fáil. I think
that hasn't been the case in the polls, but I just look at the way the whole thing's unfolded.
And as you made the point there, there's about 17 or 18 new TDs possibility for Fine Gael.
I think people are. Somebody described this as the Schrodinger's cat election.
Explain to us that now.
You don't know what's in the box until you actually open it, right?
Okay, the Schrodinger's
cat, which is, you don't know whether the cat is alive or dead in there, you know?
Okay.
And
you better say no offense to cats. Or
no offense to cats, no offense to people.
Yes. We're not like love-hate.
No offense to Schrodinger either.
Yeah, that's right.
But look, the reality is that we don't know what's going to happen until the final day. Yeah. I would discount most of the polls as rubbish.
Okay, you said the polls.
I would really. Yeah. I think the polls are not going to give us the picture.
Why did they do polls? So do you reckon? Nick? What's the point?
They're a talking point.
Okay, they're
and also some polls are
they not influence people in their vote?
They do.
They do. Yeah.
But I think to a lesser extent, because there's been such a deviation in the polls if you look at them.
Yeah.
They've been all over the
I'd agree with you. Yeah, they have.
They're saying now that Fine Gael are going to get the highest number of seats. It's
going to be close enough, I think. 3 parties. So,
I'm very surprised because I think what people are going to do is make up their mind, right? Yeah. And they're going to look at the leaders. I think the leaders are going to be a huge.
Well, Martin is going to come out very strong. That's my
point. That's my point. Yeah. I think Martin hasn't put a foot wrong in the whole thing. He hasn't done anything brilliantly.
No,
but he hasn't
made any mistakes though.
But Simon Harris is making blooper after blooper.
Okay, yeah. He got a great bounce at the start.
Yeah, of course he got a great bounce, but
they are going down. Yeah.
And I just don't think people see Simon Harris as.
Do you think
long-term
Sinn Féin can get more seats than Fine Gael?
I don't think they will. Okay. No, I think Fine Gael will be the second party, and I think Sinn Féin will be the third party.
Okay.
And I think Sinn Féin will close. I don't think Sinn Féin are going to lose too many seats, to be honest.
But probably won't gain enough of the seats either.
No. And the question really is independence. I mean, independence could go mad.
1 in 5.
Look, we could end up with 3 independents in Galway West. We could, if Noel Thomas.
We could. I mean, technically, we've given the independent Ireland, but
we've given the top 2 to Catherine Connolly and Noel
Grealish. Yeah,
so,
agree.
I mean, could Noel Thomas get a seat there? It's possible.
If Noel Thomas gets a seat, it'll be the 5th seat.
It'll be the Sinn Féin seat.
It'll be the Sinn Féin seat. Yeah, that's what I would agree. So the last one then on the main parties is, what do you think the formation of the new government will be?
Probably same again. I don't know how well the Greens are going to do.
Okay.
I think the Greens are going to do pretty okay in Dublin, to be honest. I don't see why.
They tend to lose votes, though, don't they, when they go into coalition?
Well, that's only been once. So, I mean,
that's true.
I wouldn't. And the PDs, you used to be in the PDs. Yep. Everybody said, I remember that famous election where everybody said the PDs are going to be wiped. They've got 4 seats.
Yes, that's right. And
Mary Herney kept going on, oh no, we're going to do well, and they doubled their seats.
They doubled their seats,
and it was totally against the odds.
And they were a governing party. For a small party,
that's when Noel Grealish got re-elected, you know.
Oh, that's right.
So I don't think that's going to happen with the Greens.
So
with
the guys, with Noel Grealish is interesting. He took the Bobby Malloy seat when Bobby retired, right? That was the Fianna Fáil seat.
Yeah.
So now he's built on the base to an independent. I mean, he has his own groupings, if you like, his own supporters from what he's done, but he's always going to get some of the Fianna Fáil vote. I'd say without a doubt.
I think we could see pretty much the same government going back.
I think we'll see Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael supported by independents. That's what I think I'm going to see.
They may very well want to ditch the Greens, and it depends. A lot of it depends on the numbers.
Yeah.
You know, and it could be Labour as well. You know, they could decide.
It could be Labour as well.
Let's go back to the.
Is there any possibility of Sinn Féin putting a government together?
I think that there's an outside chance, but they'd have to do very well. They'd have to be the largest party, and I don't think that's going to happen.
See, they probably would get the support of the rest of the parties because they could, you know,
but the numbers won't add up.
Yeah, I don't think so. It'd be far too fragmented. I mean,
Sinn Féin would have to get 40% of the seats, really.
Yeah,
40% of the vote to have a chance. And at the moment, what are they calling on? Mike, you've got your
20.
Yeah, 20%.
They're not going to do 40%.
Yeah, I can't see that.
Okay, so Neil, what we might do now is take a few questions, and I might take the first one here, which is a very interesting one from a mate of mine from Boston called Dave Hamilton, who was on our first ever Galway Politics Live. You remember that, Neil? And Dave actually asks a very personal one. He says, he's been talking to me, and do you think the Sinn Féin vote will come down? So we'll let you answer that, because you know my opinion.
My answer is yes. I think it'll come down, but I don't think it'll collapse.
No. I don't think it'll
come down. I think they'll come down a bit. Lose a few points.
That's exactly what I said.
They'll lose a few seats.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's what my view.
Now, the next one I think is a very, very interesting one. The person doesn't want to be named, and you'll see why in a minute. So he says basically, hi Mike, please don't read my name out if you don't mind. I'm a little curious. So just a quick question for all. Do they think of Jerry the Monk Hutch is going for election, a convicted criminal and well known to be part of a crime gang in Dublin? Should it be allowed? In my opinion, it shouldn't be allowed and will only bring shame and embarrassment and ridicule to the Dáil if he gets elected, and would turn into a media circus and a joke. He's a smart man, no doubt, and knows what he's doing. I think it's wrong if he got elected because of his criminal past. What do you think, Neil?
I actually met Jerry the monk Hutch once upon a time, and after I'd met him, I went, oh my God.
Were you afraid of him? Or?
Really? No, he can't. Right. He was a very nice man, to be honest. And that's why I was kind of surprised, because you know his reputation isn't very nice.
No, it's not.
But I mean, somebody make a joke to me. If you're going to get the criminals out of the Dáil, you'd have nobody left.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
The thing is, he's an ordinary, honest criminal, as it were.
Well, it's not like the general, is it?
People know what they're voting for.
Yeah.
I wouldn't vote for the man in a month at Sundays, right? But do you know, if he's democratically elected, he's entitled to be.
I think what your man here was saying is that what are the repercussions of not electing him?
Look, I mean, we've had people like Bobby Sands elected on this island before. We've had people, you know, various people elected in prison. You know, for
a lot of the
crimes and things. I'd be very wary of saying that people can't run.
That's Mary Lou's constituency, doesn't it? Mary Lou's in that constituency.
Absolutely.
And he's targeting that seat, even though he says he isn't.
Absolutely. I don't think he'll get elected, but you'd never.
Is Pascal O'Donoghue in the board?
I think he is, yeah.
There's some real heavyweights. You know? If he does, I don't know. I mean, I could see him getting a kind of a vote, and it transfers again.
Well, here's a question to you, Mike.
Okay.
I mean, you've given me some questions there.
Yes,
but I mean,
sure.
or some of the listeners or the public have given us some questions. But do you think that independents are going to do extremely well in this election? Because sooner or later, independents are going to do. I mean, there's already a lot of independents. But is it possible that we could get sort of, you know, 30-40% of the seats? You know, could we get 60-70 independents elected across the country? Because we're going to do in Galway West. I mean, you've got, what do you got? 30
what figure do they have on independents? I see now. What figure do the Endo have on independents?
It's not impossible.
I think it's a big hub.
Yeah, but you're going to get 2 in Galway West. If you got
19%, that's a fifth.
Yeah.
Take.
Yeah. Well, what's the fifth of the Dáil?
Yeah. Well, how much? It's gone up, doesn't it? All.
It's gone up.
Is it 170?
I can't remember the exact. I think it's around 180 or something.
It's around 180, right?
Something like that.
So you're saying if they took 20% of those votes? Yeah, I know what you're saying. And I've been kind of looking at the polls. We're getting in some good questions here, which is fair. Okay, do I think no? I don't think they can get 60 seats. But I think they could be part of the government.
Independence.
I do think independence.
Particularly the Independent Party or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that's the one Michael Collins, is it?
Yeah.
Good name if he was supporting Fine Gael. We have a lot of questions, have we?
We have quite a few, yes.
Okay. First of all, I see from Rob Heaney, and we meant to mention Mike Cupboard, lads. Well, that's a very interesting one because Mike has topped the poll.
Poor old Mike
I'm mentioning Mike Cupboard now. So
yeah.
Mike knows I was saving the best for last. So Mike is a very, very popular city councillor.
Could Mike get elected?
I hate to say it if Mike is watching, but I don't think so this time. I do believe he's increased his vote, and I do believe that in the future he will get elected. I think down the line, Mike Cupboard will get elected for the Dáil. He's a consistent performer.
He's strong. He will get a good vote locally in his local area. I mean, he does look after his own constituency very, very well.
He does.
You know, he was mayor twice. I think he'll get a strong vote.
Is it enough to get him in the running for the 50s?
I don't think so.
No, not this time.
I don't think so because I don't think he'll get enough transfers. You know, I just
What about where will Mike Cupboard's transfers go?
Very good question. Very good question. They could go pretty much anywhere.
I'm thinking more socialist than.
It's hard to know.
It is hard to know
because he's very much got a community vote, which is across.
He's got a community vote.
Different types of party, if you know what I mean. So I think they splinter all over the place. To be honest,
he's a popular candidate because he always seems to be in the alliances in City Hall.
Like, is Mike Cupboard left or right? You know, like I wouldn't say he's either.
I would say Mike Cupboard is more left than right. Definitely, he'll probably go more central. But I think he might be left of.
I think Mike does a good job of pulling in votes from every single different type of political background because he's a community guy.
Yeah. So Rob, I hope that answers your question. Let's see Paul Campbell, who's always.
Paul Campbell says the 33rd Dáil has 160 members representing 39 constituencies. So back to your point.
That's the current Dáil, but now it's going to go up to 174.
Yeah.
And we were right about that.
So 174. 43 constituencies. If you got one independent elected in each
constituency,
that's 43 people. You know, that's 43 people, 43 independents. I don't think that's unlikely at all.
It's possible.
But think of Galway West. We're predicting at least 2, if not 3.
We are. So but there's going to be some areas that won't elect any independents at all.
If you took 2 from every single constituency in the country,
right,
you could have an independent government.
That's a big ask.
It's not going to happen because
it's not going to happen. No, it's not going to happen.
The point of parties is that they, they compromise, they come together.
That's right.
They form voting blocks.
Yeah, and that's what these guys are doing.
Won't be able to agree to that extent.
Not every grouping, but there certainly will. As you mentioned, Michael Collins there before, and we've mentioned Noel Thomas. There are some, and then you're talking about Noel Grealish. Like these guys are all independents.
Yes, they are.
And as you said, they've got various views. But it's a hard one to know.
I could see certainly over 40 independents in the next Dáil.
Okay. Yeah, it's possible. That would be what? Would that be 40%?
So could there be a situation? No, it wouldn't. No, it'd be around what they
around
20%.
But you're saying if they got a TD in each ward. And 2 and
or
more.
In each constituency.
And if you're saying 60 could get elected, that's a high percentage. No, I can't see that happening. What about the other parties though? Do you see like Labour changing, going up or down? We've spoken about
Let's go through them. Let's go through from the top.
Okay.
At the moment at the top is Fine Gael. I mean, do you think Fine Gael will go up or down from what they currently have?
I think Fianna Fáil will go up in seats.
No, I asked you about Fine Gael now.
They'll get on a little bit. Yeah,
do you think they'll lose seats?
I do. They might lose
proportionately now. They're going up to 174 seats.
Yeah. No, I think they probably will lose because I mean, some government party always gets the hit big time.
I'd say they'll stay where they are.
Okay, you said they'll stay where they are.
That's my thing. We both have a different view on that.
Would I be right in saying Fianna Fáil got the most seats the last time?
By 1, I think.
By 1, it was, and then of course they had the Ken Curl as well too.
Yeah.
So so you're saying Fine Gael?
I'm saying I think Fianna Fáil are going to go up.
Fianna Fáil are going to go up.
I think they will go up.
And I agree with you on the fact that Micheál Martin has come out better than Simon Harris, without a doubt. Okay, what about Sinn Féin?
I think Sinn Féin will go down a bit.
Yeah,
I think they'll lose a few seats.
Yeah, I think so. Let's go through the rest of them. So Okay, Fine Gael.
Well, the Greens would be next on the previous.
Falling already. So their percentages.
So well, I mean, I think the accepted wisdom is that the Greens are going to get wiped out. No, I don't think that's going to
happen. They won't be wiped out, but they'll go down in votes.
I think they go down in seats quite a bit.
Yeah, they go down in seats.
I could see the Greens having the number, or maybe even more than that, you know. Yeah. I mean, a bad day, they could end up they get 2 seats.
A little bit like the PDs, in that they get a big seat, they go down, they go up, they go down.
Yeah.
You know, but they were very much solid part of government. And you think with all the environment talk,
the Greens themselves are talking about 4 to 18 seats, right? They've got 13 seats, I think. Okay. 12, 13 seats.
So they drop.
I personally would give them about 8 seats.
I would agree. 6 or 8 seats.
6 or 8 seats. Mainly in Dublin.
Okay, mainly in Dublin.
I could see them being wiped out around the country now.
So they're going to go down. They're going to take a hit. People before profit?
People before profit, I'd say they'll... Well, you see, they're losing 1 or 2 good candidates now. I'd say they... Yeah, Breeze Smith now is retiring.
Oh yeah, some of them are retiring. Sorry, you're right.
You know, I think they'll stay pretty much where they are. To be honest,
it's going to be a low percentage anyway.
I don't think they're going to go up. N2 I can see going up.
What about okay? Labour? Let's group all the independents together. Well, I'd say the way you're talking, we'll get there in a second. I have them here on my list. I just that I've got Noel Thomas the next on the independents. Like you're basically saying, you reckon the independents will go up?
I think so.
Yeah, I do too. I think they go up substantially.
Mainly at the expense of Sinn Féin.
Is that what you think? Yeah, I think some of them at the expense of the government parties.
And I'm not saying that Fianna Fáil are going to go up by much, by the way.
No. But they go up a little bit, yeah. There's not going to be an awful lot of change between Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Sinn Féin. Would you agree?
I would.
Okay. So the Labour Party. In Galway, they're a strong candidate.
I think they'll go up a little bit. Okay. I think they'll go up a little bit.
I would think so too.
I don't think they're going to get a seat here.
No, I don't think so. I mean, she could be influential where it goes, but I don't see it. Portland and N2. Well, we both kind of agree.
I'd say N2, you know, there's only one way to go. I don't think Patrick Tobin is going to lose in a month.
Oh, not a chance, not a chance.
In fact, some people gave him the
leaders' debate.
The leaders' debate said he's the best. Look, whether you agree with him or not,
right?
You know, the reality is that he's done a strong job of opposition.
He has.
You know, he's opposed a lot of things. He's done traditional opposition very well.
Okay.
And I could see in the areas where they're strong, they ran very strategically. They ran people in the European elections.
They did.
And I think, you know, they've got some good candidates in place.
Yeah.
I could see them getting at least 3 or 4 seats.
That'd be some movement for them, wouldn't it?
It would, from 1 to 3 or 4.
Okay, so we reckon N2 are going to get better. They get 5% here.
Okay. Yeah, I think they'll go.
The Green Party are at 3%.
Well, I think the Greens are definitely going to go down.
Going to get a hit.
You know, but how far is the question? You know,
Social Democrats,
it could be very bad.
Social Democrats are kind of on the rise, aren't they? Holly Cairns.
I'd be surprised if the Social Democrats don't go up in seats.
Yeah, I would too.
I mean, they have 6 at the moment. They could do
extremely well.
They could
be possible kingmakers.
I personally think that it'll be the next election when the Social Democrats do really well.
Right.
I think this one they're going to go up.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
No, I think they're making steady progress.
Certainly, young people definitely tend to like the Social Democrats.
They tend to mix up here the party, people before profit, solidarity, all these kind of groupings. What do you think?
Yeah.
Some of them are independent now.
It's hard to know with Labour as well, you know, like, I mean, Labour, are they strong, are they not? It's hard to see the Social
Labour
Democrats
did very well in the last locals
Labour
here.
Both doing well.
You know, they took 3 seats in the locals here, which is quite impressive.
They did.
Yeah. So obviously their vote's gone up a little bit. How much it goes up? I mean, people are talking about them being the 3rd government party. So for that, there'd have to be more seats than the Greens. But
I think they probably will end up with slightly more seats. They've already got 7 seats, I think, and the Greens have 12 or 13.
Is it 12 or 13 the Greens have? So
I could see the Greens going down to where Labour are and Labour going up to where the Greens are. That will be the sort of...
Just want to see. Okay, what issues will factor how people vote in the election? Neil, do you reckon?
Well, everybody talks about immigration, but I wonder, do they trust anybody on immigration?
No, because they're all flip-flopping.
Maybe the likes of N2.
Well, they're probably the only party that's consistent.
Yeah, exactly.
At this stage,
well,
they've only got one TV.
A radical voice, you know.
Yeah. But maybe it's easy to be like.
And there's a few independents who have been very strong.
Noel Thomas. Very
there
strong.
you go.
Very strong.
And do people care about immigration? Absolutely they do.
Oh, they do.
Absolutely they do. I think people like Noel Grealish has had a particular stance on immigration. Which is going to stick well to him. You know, I wouldn't share his views, but I mean,
but it's a solid view.
But it's a solid view, and you know, it's.
And Noel is fairly consistent, I think, in what he says.
Look, Mary Lou has kind of made the right noises in some ways, you know, and even Fine Gael have changed their stance on immigration, and even Fianna Fáil a little bit.
But Sinn Féin did a total U-turn, didn't they?
Pretty much, yeah. So they're kind of saying it's
people are saying to me they want to be a populist party. They kind of go with the wind. What do you think of that?
Well, I think Sinn Féin have been very disappointing. I personally find them a terrible opposition. Their job is opposition. I found during the COVID debate they were brutal. They were absolutely hopeless. They didn't put up any opposition at all. They just flip-flopped. Housing. You know, I thought they had a fairly strong policy on housing.
Oh no, Bryn wrote a book on housing.
Oh no, Bryn has got all the knowledge in his head, right?
And he's seen as if they
I thought Pierce Doherty was giving them the government quite a hard time.
Porrick McLaughlin is another one.
But they've fallen off the edge. You know, like I mean,
well, there's a train of thought that says that if they don't do well, then Mary Lou will be replaced as leader.
Well, I think they should. If they don't do well, I think they should replace Mary Lou because, quite frankly, they look very wet. You know, they don't even have a strong United Ireland stance in the South anymore.
Did I hear the last day that Mary Lou wants a border poll by 2030? How likely do you think that is?
Oh, Mary Lou border poll by 2030. I think that's quite possible that there'll be a border poll, but I don't think it's necessarily Sinn Féin who are going to bring it about.
No, I mean, Fianna Fáil will be strong in that too, with the Republican base.
I think they all will be, maybe even Fine Gael, you know.
And would you like to see a border poll?
I would.
Would you like to see United Ireland?
I would.
Okay, that's the opposite. No, I wouldn't. I'd like it left as it is. I just think there's an awful lot of stuff there. The least amount is the amount of money that it would cost to bring Northern Ireland into the Republic. You know, because I don't know how much Britain is paying, but it's incredible money. You know, and it's putting more financial pressure on us. Plus, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, but
there's always some kind of fighting up there. You know,
that would cease to be the case.
Oh yeah,
they would very quickly. There'd be a lot of investment in the north, in the whole country. Actually,
you reckon?
If it was Ireland united, yeah. No, I think using economics as a reason for not uniting is poor.
That'd be one of the reasons.
Well, it would have been valid 20 years ago, but I think right now, you know, supposedly one of the richest countries in the world.
Yeah, do you believe that?
Well, I mean, on the ground, that isn't the case.
Well, we're so rich we don't have to use the 14 billion. We're
so rich none of our kids can afford to rent
or buy houses
or buy a house.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're so rich that we can hardly afford the shopping.
So it's pretty stupid one of the richest countries in the world.
Electricity becomes a major issue for.
And I don't know, I assume was it Enda who actually said that Ireland was the best small country to do business with, or something like that. You remember he made that point?
It might be at a high level, and that might be true. And the aircraft leasing companies are massive in Ireland. But I mean, do we see any of it? How many people do they employ? You know, 2 or 3 people each or something. Point.
The other one then is, you know, looking at the topics. Obviously, you mentioned their housing. They're all kind of saying the same thing now, aren't they? We need so many houses a year, 35, 40, 50,000. It's like a real election gimmick. We're going to get you 35,000. We'll get you 40,000. Like, one thing that amazed me was Sinn Féin's health policy. You know, I mean, free medical cards to everybody, I think was one of them, which would be great in theory, but it's going to cost a lot of money. Not overly putting figures on some of the policies, you know. I mean, all the parties are promising the earth at this stage. You saw the budget itself. It was a great giveaway budget. But
I don't think people believe a word that they all say. I think they believe in the sentiment of what some of them say.
Yeah.
But in terms of expecting, you know, half of the things that people are promising, does anybody really believe that Sinn Féin are going to come in and that the housing crisis is going to
be over? No. I don't think so.
I don't think anybody does. So. No, does anybody believe that the economy is going to go down the tubes because we vote for party A or B or C.
There's an interesting one too, the Donald Trump effect. Like he said he's going to try and pull the multinationals.
Yeah, who's strong on the economy?
Here.
Yeah. Who would people feel? Look,
I think you'd probably have to say the guys that are there at the moment are strong on the economy.
Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the unknown thing of Sinn Féin who've never been in government.
The Greens.
Nobody thinks the Greens
are strong on the economy.
Well, yeah, the Green economy wouldn't be the strongest point for the Greens. It's mainly
I'd argue otherwise, but then again, I was a bit biased.
Well, but I mean, you've a fairly good argument.
I think the Greens know more about economics than
any other party,
actually. Well, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's
I don't know that Fine Gael know a hell of a lot about the economy. They talk about.
But they have Pascal O'Donoghue, who's perceived as a very, very good finance minister. Now I know he's not finance minister at the moment. Is it public expenditure? They vary the two between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael every time they switch leaders. So, but he's perceived in Europe, as a very strong financial minister. So, would that not say they have a fair bit of handle on the economy?
Well, I know Pascal well, and I know, he was in the channel with me, and I mean, is Pascal a financial guru? No, he's not. No, he's a good politician.
He's a good politician.
He's steady. Right. Pascal will never make mistakes. He's a good conservative, and that's what.
But is that kind of what you want in finance? Conservative.
It probably for a lot of people it is. Yes.
You don't want people going mad. Here's another one just to throw in there now, and it's more kind of a local: the property tax and the increase of 15% that both Galway City and Council have gone for. What do you think of that? What's your opinion?
Well, I certainly think local tax is a good thing. But I think it has to be backed up by local power and the wielding of local power. It has to be a provision of good services.
Yeah.
And the problem is, unfortunately, a lot of people believe that, look, we pay a lot and we get nothing.
Yeah.
We get nothing back. I think people are prepared to accept a certain degree of local taxes if they can see it making a difference on the ground and if it's linked to clear improvements in infrastructure.
Well, I would be very against an increase in the tax to 15%. Because I think what's happening is they're getting the tax, the government bringing it back to the
tax, and they're wasting it.
And they're wasting it. They're not putting it back locally to us.
Like a thing that absolutely amazes me is how on earth are the government getting away with the cost of the children's hospital?
Yeah.
To me, 2.14 billion, was it? Or
it's
a little bit more than that?
It's crazy money.
It's insanity. Yeah. It's so bad
and
that people almost can't see it anymore.
Yeah.
It's taken so long. How many children are being looked after as a result of it?
Exactly.
Is it improving lives of anybody? And blaming sort of particular companies.
Yeah.
I mean, this is massive.
Because they've gone over budget and a lot of stuff.
It's massive incompetence.
And they've paid over budget and
lots of stuff. It's corruption, it's incompetence, it's all rolled into one.
I'd agree with you on that, totally.
You know what? The opposition have left the government off the hook. To such an extent, it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, people were whittling on about the children's hospital and the overall cost. Yeah. And we were talking about hundreds of millions then. We weren't talking about billions.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely
the idea is brilliant and we should have it, but it shouldn't be.
We want a great world-class children's hospital.
Yeah.
But do we even believe we're going to get it?
Yeah.
I hope so.
I hope we do.
For that cost, I hope we get it.
But no more than, it keeps being pushed out and pushed out.
But you see, what people don't like is they don't like massive expenditure and shoddy services to back them up.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people fear is that you're going to get a big, unwieldy, useless service at the end of it. You're going to spend all that money and it's not even going to be good.
Yeah, it's possibilities, yeah.
So I don't know. I think people
we're strong on that one. So we've kind of looked now at health and we've looked at housing. What about
education?
Okay, what about education, Neil?
Well, again, I mean, I just think we've taken, we had a reputation of being really
scholars,
strong in education.
Scholars, we had.
No, but we had investing in education. We had a reputation for that.
That's right.
And with the whole, I just think, in fact, I have to say that Simon Harris as a third level minister was brutal. I mean,
and he was higher education minister, wasn't he?
Higher education minister.
That's right.
Again, who is highlighting that? I think I think a lot of professors look at Simon Harris and they say, "My God, that guy is for the birds."
Okay.
Because the investment in third level, in particular, has gone way down. The investment in the area I'm involved in research,
well, you'd know
has gone way down.
Yeah.
Do you know? And it's been cut. the levels of bureaucracy have increased enormously in that.
As with the health service.
And we're getting bad quality output for the money which is spent, and I think a lot of people are at their wits' end.
Yeah, I'd agree with you
in the third level, even in second level,
and of course in first level, the huge classes.
Absolutely.
And the social assistants,
same thing. People are now trying to get their kids into schools, right? They're trying to get them into schools for next year.
And it's very difficult.
And in Galway City, there is a mess.
Well, with Galway City, it appears to be if you have a brother or sister who went, then you're okay. If a parent was there, you probably are okay. But I've spoken to people, all right, and they're on lists.
Which
and it's I'm number 25.
They're all everybody is putting their child's name down for every school.
Yes.
And because of this,
that's the point.
There's 300 places.
It's blocking them
and
off.
you're number 700 or 800 on the list. And you're going, oh, for God's sake, there's no chance.
Even if you gave them the first choice and the second choice, that'd be something.
It is organized.
It's chaotic.
Ridiculous, and I think people are just utterly fed up with the way education is.
So talking about ridiculous, what about the transport situation in Galway? And I'm talking about the perceived bypass. I'm talking about light rail, bendy buses, better bus times, T3. Give us your opinion on the bypass first of all. No, I kind of
my opinion on the bypass. I'm not
tell the viewers what the bypass.
Other people love the bypass, and good luck to them. I mean,
I don't love the bypass.
We had the the Quincentenary Bridge in '85.
That's right.
That was going to solve everything forever.
And if there weren't so many cars around, it might have.
Solve everything forever.
Look,
it's not a transport solution for getting from A to B. It's not a transport solution. For getting across.
I mean, the percentage of people using the city are very, very low.
Yeah, like when the Glewis says that the Glewis group saying that you can get from Knocknacarra to Parkmore Industrial Estate in about 17 or 18
minutes.
I'd
even widen it. I'd go further on.
17 or 18. No, but that journey is a big journey.
17 or 18 minutes.
17 or 18 minutes. At the moment they spend an hour sitting in the car.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you get on the bus,
coming home is pretty worse. Yeah.
And the bus connects. It's not going to increase that. You've got to go to the city and back out again.
Well, I know I would have always been a proponent of light rails.
The bypass is the bypass going to get you there in 17 or 18 minutes?
It's probably going to create more traffic
because you're going to get a big bottleneck coming into Parkmore.
Do
you know what I mean? You're going to go very fast around the outskirts of the city, and then you'll be in another traffic jam. That's the way
why do you think? Why do you think of all the talk about the Glewis, that we don't have it by now?
Because we have got a completely incompetent political setup in Galway, really. In fairness, we don't have coherence at a Galway City Council level, right? We've got absolutely no coherence. We've got a Galway Transport unit, but there's only one or two people really who are competent working within that unit.
Who know what they're doing.
It's just very, very.
Does the chief executive rule with an iron fist?
The chief executive does rule with an iron fist,
so
and the chief executive just has a rule. Let's focus on the bypass and nothing else.
And they will.
And they failed time and time again. And they don't look at it from an overall transport point of view. The only way I'd say at this stage, I'd say build the bloody bypass, but build the Glewis as well. Build everything.
Or would you not take a stage at a time and say, okay, let's try light rail. Let's see if that takes the pressure off. Let's try better bus schedules, adding more buses. Let's try T3, which I've always suggested.
Talk about that,
So
we're hearing endlessly about bus connects, but where is it?
Because they're talking about them all coming together. Well, they're not all going to come together. You have to start off with the first one.
Well, you have
to do something. They say with light rail that people aren't going to lose their houses. You're putting the tracks down on the road.
Fine Gael have been in government for 14 years, right? Hildegard Naughton is transport minister. Right? Tell us in Galway City, what are the improvements we've seen in that time in transport?
We've seen nothing.
That's the reality.
Maybe a couple of extra bike lanes.
5 years, you can say, okay, we haven't had enough time.
10
years, maybe
we've had plenty of time.
You stretch that, but we've 14 years, and we have a transport minister. And I'm not trying to have a go at Hildegard. I know what you're saying.
Really decent person, and she gets a lot done.
She does she?
Well, she did very well with the hospital out in Merlin Park. No, she did in fairness, you got to give her kudos for that. Is she? Well, I mean, she sits at cabinet, so she has an input.
She does. She does.
Now, she's not a full minister. She's
and I'm not going to put all the blame on Hildegard's shoulders because quite frankly, there's other politicians.
Oh yeah,
Galway.
yeah.
Eamon O'Queeve has a strong influence in the government. You know,
absolutely.
Eamon O'Queeve has talked about transport endlessly.
Yeah, but you know, one of the big problems with transport is at the end. What do you call it? The NTA.
Is the National Transport Authority.
Okay, because I spoke to, we mentioned it to him before my cupboard about this, and I was on about T3, which is a real baby of mine. And T3 is if you have two more people in the car, you can drive in the bus lanes. What would you think of that?
Well, I disagree with that.
Would you? Why?
Because bus lanes, like, what's the point of having a bus lane then?
Well, did you ever see the bus lanes in Westside? Yes, I was there one day for an hour, and I saw like 3 buses. So look at all the times it's free. You could even do, okay, the buses have to do a certain time.
You see, the thing is about traffic is it's all about the bottleneck, right?
Yeah.
It's about the flow and the bottleneck. So having 2 lanes filled up with cars doesn't mean that the bottleneck shifts more quickly. It just means that you'll get people parking temporarily in
Wouldn't it have been lovely to experiment with it though, Neil? As you said, we've tried nothing.
No, it wouldn't, because in reality, where you've got other cities, the evidence from other cities is, I've looked at this over years.
Right,
I've worked in politics, I've worked in transport.
Sure.
Looked at it over years. In where they've done this in other cities, what it's done is it's clogged up the buses, it's reduced the speed of the buses, and it hasn't improved the journey time.
Well, here's an interesting one for you.
Anywhere. And I'm talking about 100%.
Okay.
Do you know there are no examples where that has worked?
Okay, I'll give you an example. So when I was canvassing in 2019, I met 2 guys, 2 cops from America, and they were saying your idea at T3 is brilliant. It works well in the States. So wherever they were, well, there you are now, wherever they lived.
Yeah, no, look at the actual studies which have been carried out.
On European stuff,
Some lad in the States who says it works brilliantly.
No, I mean they were very excited about it, and they had I can't name where they were from exactly, but one of them could have been New York. I don't know where they were from, but they at least understood what it was. Whereas Irish people don't seem to know what it is, and I do think, Neil, that those bus lanes are very empty.
You know as well as I do that we don't have a strong transport police who enforce things, right? In the States, it's completely different, right? They have a strong transport police who would be on the job all day long. They have helicopters going through the air.
Okay.
You know, they're
drones.
But they have sort of 4 or 5 lane highways, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's a completely separate thing. There would be no policing here at all. You open up those cars, it'll become free for all. Right. Because who's going to know whether the 2 or 3 people?
Well, that's where you need higher traffic policing, without a doubt. But just to move off that for a second, Neil.
Yeah, anyway, I don't want to get bogged.
No.
Bigger picture than that.
We'll agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah, we will.
Although we do both agree.
Even though I would contend that my data shows that.
But we would both agree light rail should be tried here.
There's no question about that.
Without a doubt, light rail should be tried here. Captain Connolly did a huge.
Do you see what the downside is?
I don't see it either. Yeah,
I don't.
There's nothing to lose.
The only downside that some people have come up with is that it might obviate the need for a bypass, but I don't think so. I think the bypass is well, it is a positive.
It is a positive. Yeah.
But some people don't see it that way. They say we'll never get it's a choice between the bypass.
But we don't even have.
That is weak.
Yeah, we don't even have intelligent traffic lights.
We do,
but there's nobody operating. They're not operated. You know, for the first thing. We haven't somebody there for ages.
Yeah, we have a lot of intelligence behind it. Yeah,
right, but they're not monitored correctly.
No, they're not. Well, I've been down to the place, our, you know, we have a state of the art system.
Yeah,
and there's nobody actually operating it.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so like in Dublin, they have a whole
really
team.
Stupid to me. You know, they don't mind spending so much to move City Hall out. Okay, totally, which is going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to cost a lot of money in the future. And yet, something as basic as intelligent traffic lights isn't being monitored. Where's the logic?
There isn't.
There isn't. That's what I thought. Maybe the one last issue we should do
is Galway well managed as a city?
As a city?
Or as a county?
That's a good question. Yeah, I would say not, because you mentioned policing.
I think the county council does a better job than
the city council. Okay,
but that's partly because the city council is a very small council.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have the resources because of the number of people in the city. It's a small number.
Okay,
and it's equivalent to Leitrim County Council. You know, in terms of its status and its the resources it has. It doesn't have a big budget.
Well, we spoke before about a directly elected mayor, and I checked. You've probably gone through it as well, through the Shannon reports, because I contacted John Paul Phelan, who was the Minister for Local Government, and I said, why don't we have a directly elected mayor poll here? And he said, he actually said to me, you know, and this guy was a TD, okay, read through the Senate notes, and I did. And the main point was, we won't get a vote for that until the city and the county amalgamate.
Exactly.
You know, so.
That's what happened in Limerick.
Yeah.
And has it improved the city and or the county?
Well, they've only put in a new directly elected mayor in June or July. So
but you know what? Chance. Since they amalgamated the city and the county, both the city and the county, at the time, Galway was roughly on a par in terms of population and in terms of a lot of things with Limerick.
Yeah.
It's fallen well behind now.
Has it?
Well behind.
Because of the mayor?
No, more because of the amalgamation of
the amalgamation.
City and the county.
Yeah.
And also the whole process of electing the mayor has really boosted Limerick.
Oh yeah, and you're getting
a lot of changes in Limerick.
The guy, I don't know, is it Moran or John Moran is the guy named. He was with the Department of Finance before, so he'd be very well, you know.
You see, the opportunity to have a local person, I don't care who it is. You know, I mean, to have a local person running on a local platform who has some real power and a bit of budget.
It takes out the chief executive, really, doesn't it? Which is no harm.
I would love that.
Yeah, I
would love that.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, you know, the chief executives we've had in the past
have not
been good.
Yeah, but they've dominated the county.
Most of the time outside the city.
Yeah, the previous guy, yeah, that's right.
In the county, we've had one or two good chief executives in the county council.
Okay.
I'm sorry to say this, no disrespect. Well, it is disrespect to the chief executives in the city.
Okay.
I don't think we've had many good chief executives in the city in the time I've been around in Galway, you know, and that's quite a long time. Do you know, it's
a long time.
Really, like,
if you go back,
name some good stuff.
I'll tell you, it was very good, but it's so far back people won't know. Seamus Keating. I don't know if you were.
Yeah, I remember that.
He was a good chief executive, so he was. But I have a funny feeling. I mean, when did they get separate, the city council and the county council? Do you know?
I remember roughly it was well into the last millennium, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. It's well into the 90s and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why do you think they split up?
Well, there were various reasons for it at the time. You know, there was I can see the point of having the two councils.
Yeah.
But I think there should be closer connection in terms of infrastructure and things. I mean, I think it'd be better if it was sort of a hybrid model, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
The fear is that a lot of the need in the city, like the rates and so on, the rate space in the city would be used by people in the county if which of course it would, because there's a majority of people in the county compared to in the city. There's more councillors in the county.
37 or something ridiculous. Yeah.
So the city might be losing.
But how can you have 37 and is it what, 18?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it's far too many far too many councillors for the whole.
And obviously they're like turkeys. They're not going to vote for it. Turkeys at Christmas. They're hardly going to say we should do it.
I propose that we'd merge and.
But the guys that are in there, the current councillors aren't going to vote for it.
No, they're not. Well, no, I lost. I think what was it, 14 votes to 1 at the time, or at least we didn't even have a vote on it because nobody would back up my contention. Right, yeah, I made that proposal as mayor, and nobody agreed with it.
Yeah,
nobody at all.
So the last bit I think we should discuss before we finish up is law and order and the Gardaí. So first of all, Gardaí numbers. What would you think there?
You're forgetting the environment, Mike.
We get to the environment afterwards, so I think we're here for the day. Here's me trying to keep it short.
I know, yeah. You want to discuss law and order. I want to discuss the environment.
Well, let's do law and order first, and then we'll end with the environment. How's that? We'll be very strong in the environment. Okay. So law and order.
Law and order. What about it?
There aren't enough Gardaí on the street, without a doubt. We have a new Garda, well, not new now, but a few years old out in Raymore, and sure, you never see anybody out there. I went in one day to get a form signed.
We're back to the old Lugs Brannigan argument or whatever.
Well,
you know that you need more Gardaí in the community.
I think you do, though. Community, definitely.
I couldn't agree more. You know, like, I mean, of course, I would like to see. I don't want to see Gardaí being desk bound or hidden behind.
No, and that's a waste of time.
Cameras. I'd like to see Gardaí disconnected with you know.
Work.
Look, let's be blunt about it. In Galway City, drugs are becoming a mega problem, like they are everywhere else. And you know, are there Gardaí getting involved directly with the people who are involved in drugs? Do they know everybody? You know, is there community engagement?
Well, every week,
positive way.
Every week you nearly hear of a drugs bust, which is good, but no. And there's, you know what they tell you, Neil? Numbers. That's exactly the reason there isn't more numbers.
I feel sorry for the Gardaí we have now. I'd be honest, but you know,
because they're overworked. So we have this great 14 billion to mess around with.
But are we going to sort anything out by investing a lot more in law and order?
Well, I certainly think
if it's community Gardaí,
okay.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But if we're going to have a much more heavy-handed, sitting behind the cameras type of thing, CCTV sort of approach to things, a more technologically,
I wouldn't go that far.
I'd be very Big Brother is watching you.
I'd like the Gardaí to be more visible. I'd like, say around there square you go, oh, there's the guard.
Yeah, but we're agreed on that. But
community.
But let's be involved in the community. Let's get them involved.
Get to know the community.
Get to know community sport clubs. Okay, where
your it could be said you need more numbers to do that.
Well, fine. But get more Gardaí.
And I do agree with you about the actual running of the Gardaí stations. They don't have to be Gardaí. It can be done by, office clerks, whatever.
You see, what we're seeing is an investment in things like Commission Amman, and we're seeing things, like policing the online space. I don't think that's where the investment should go. I know more and more people are going into the online space.
Yeah, that's right.
Policing the online space, I agree with you that we should get away from that and get more focused on the actual community out on the streets. Trying to encourage our young people to go out and talk to each other, not just
and maybe trying to discourage vandalism.
Absolutely,
higher visibility.
Absolutely, it should be physical.
Yeah,
I think it should be physical. It should be visible, and I think it should be transparent.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of sort of unnamed Gardaí sort of sitting in some office in Dublin somewhere.
Yeah.
And policing our school children from sending dick pics to each other and so on. I don't like that idea of sending, harassment online and so on. But, I just be very wary of building up a whole sort of Big Brother monitoring sort of AI.
Well, that's probably an extreme. It's probably an extreme, doesn't it?
It is an extreme, but that seems to be where we're heading.
But how are we getting there?
As opposed to because we're not focusing, as you say, on the community.
Yeah, on the community.
And the total focus should be making sure we don't go there in the first place.
Yeah.
Get people out playing football, get people out doing physical things, get people involved in the community. It should be community, and it should be,
but it's not
disappearing into our mobile phones.
Yeah.
And here we are having a debate, ironically, on computers, on Facebook.
Well, there you go. There's no other way we get out.
But at least we're in the living room together. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Now, of course, we're going to end on Neil's favorite, the environment. So tell us what you think could be the environment's stupid.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it could be based on that,
Well, I honestly would love to believe that there were far more people concerned about the environment than there actually are.
I think you're right. I think most people don't give a monkey's about the environment. That might be a bit harsh, but
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I just no. Well, I'm realistic about it. I mean, there's a small cohort of people who care deeply about the environment.
Yeah.
And to me,
it's not an election issue, though. It's not an election issue. The environment. It's not coming up.
It isn't this time, no. And we've just had COP, whatever it is, 29 or something.
Yeah, that seems to be
it's gone under the radar completely. And people are saying, what a load of rubbish,
And that's it, you see, that these things happen and now they're not as important. Like, it is obviously, the environment is important. But when you're looking at something like electric cars, and they're so expensive, how do you buy an electric car?
But I was over in Venice recently. And I was due to meet a guy who actually got caught, believe it or not, in Valencia.
Right.
And he was somebody involved in the Port Authority there, right, in Venice. And he actually couldn't fly out of Valencia because of the terrible floods that happened there at the time, So and the irony of that was enormous, because we were trying to look at the problem that Venice has, that it could be potentially disappearing under what it's
well, they've always said it's a possibility.
City. It's dangerous, and they're looking at technical solutions to preventing flooding and so on. But they also, the reality is that there's huge environmental pressure on low-lying cities and low-lying, and if you look at the likes of the Claddagh, I mean, we have huge pressures in terms of our own city. You'll see all these awful looking barriers down in Spanish Arch from time to time.
Well, that's what they're for.
And okay, they do a little bit of good.
Takes a hammer.
Well, we've had some awful floods, and the reality is that we're looking at more of the same, if not worse. But the natural environment to me is the big issue. That we just seem to be going backwards all the time. We're looking at things like biodiversity. We're looking at species disappearing. We're looking at constant erosion of the planet. We're looking at nature just like Ireland is still a fairly natural country.
Yeah.
But it's going in the wrong direction all the time. Every single year it's going backwards in terms of that. And you know, like if we keep going like this, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Do you know? And there is a bigger picture.
Some people would say, Neil, that take old people who rely on fossils like
fossil fuels,
you know, your briquettes and stuff like that. And the argument is that they can't afford, you know, how would I say, the price of those things are going up the whole time, like briquettes.
Yeah, and that's true.
So how do you know, get around that or make things better with all these, you know, these taxes?
Well, we could be here all day explaining that one, Mike.
Okay.
But you know, what we really can't afford is a situation where we all disappear into energy poverty, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And we can't afford a situation where the environment is no longer something that we can live in. And
do you think it's fair, Neil,
we don't have proper
taxes
access to water?
You know, do you think it's fair them putting taxes in Ireland when we don't reach our targets of the environment?
Taxes on what?
On carbon and all that kind of stuff. You know, all fuels.
I don't think any taxes are fair.
No, I basically mean, I don't know if I'm using the right word now, taxes. But you know, if Ireland isn't kind of getting to a certain level environmentally, they pay.
Oh, I know, yeah. No, the mechanisms all appear to be unfair on people. People don't want to pay more taxes. I don't want to pay more taxes.
No.
I hate them. Hey, I don't want to pay any tax on anything, right? None of us want to pay tax. It's more, I would try and take the focus off that sort of argument, because the way I would look at it is we need to look more at what are we spending money on. Are we investing in good environment quality? Are we investing in water services, on water treatment? Are we investing on things which are going to help our health? Because at the end of the day, you know, we shouldn't confuse, we should remember that health and environment are very much interlinked.
Yeah.
You can't live in a cesspool and expect to be healthy.
Would you not put it this way, though? If you look at China and America, and
they're becoming very unhealthy places.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they don't invest in the environment.
At the end of the day, we're a small island, you know.
And we're very lucky.
Yeah.
Because we still have good, clean water. We still have good, clean air.
Yeah.
We still have
That's a good point.
Food security in Ireland. You know, we have the potential to produce our own food.
But do you not think in hammering small countries like Ireland for not reaching targets, and more emphasis should be put on the States and China?
Yeah, well, I don't think the focus needs to be necessarily on those sorts of targets. I think the focus needs to be investment in our natural environment.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, and I think we at our peril, you know, we should just let our environment go. Most Irish people do care about the environment at a very local level.
But do they do much about it?
Well, unfortunately, everybody knows that we're losing stuff every year. They see certain types of birds disappearing. They see certain types of animals disappearing. They see
they don't overly
deterioration.
Yeah.
A lot of people are very good, but when I say a lot of people, you know, you're talking about 3-4% of people.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, most people.
That's what I made the point
that care.
People might think it's very extreme to say, you know, people don't give a monkeys about the environment. They don't overly.
We will care, though. That's the point I'm making.
Or maybe we won't care. It might be the next generation.
Deterioration, endless deterioration.
It's true.
It's you know, there comes a point when really our lives are going to be badly affected by this.
Yeah.
And it won't matter what the numbers are in your bank account. If you can't eat, you can't feed your family. You don't have enough food. You know, the quality of the soil, that's something that we don't put much attention on at all.
It's true.
Soil quality is deteriorating massively.
Okay.
Do you know, and okay, yes, we import all these fertilizers from Ukraine and Russia. Do we?
We do.
We used to.
I think we used to,
yeah. And across Europe, people used to, you know, import fertilizers from other countries. Yes.
Yeah.
But those aren't going to last forever, are they?
Okay. No.
I mean, depending on Russia for our gas and our oil and our fertilizer.
Isn't good. Yeah. I get you.
You know.
So I know this man beside me could speak about the environment ad nauseum
months and
for months, and
weeks.
You know, in fairness, he has been fairly, you know.
Actually, just one other thing we didn't talk about now, which is dear to my heart, is farming. Do you know? Irish farming has been absolutely filleted in this country, and we have the likes of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would claim to be farmers' parties, They are failing miserably.
Okay.
And yeah, you can blame the Greens.
Well, Fine Gael
destroying
was
farming. They have
often
not.
said as the rich man's
farmers, and
John
Fianna Fáil were
Rugen,
the poor,
would be the guy you'd be thinking
farmers.
of there. Yeah. But you reckon
I reckon that farming in this country is not, we should be embracing new types of farming, organic farming, all sorts of
over the years
products.
we've got a lot from CAP. And once we joined the EEC as it was then, now the EU, we benefited very, very much in farming. But that's gone now, is it?
Beef farmers are finding it very hard to make a living, sheep farmers almost impossible.
Okay.
Everybody's dependent on subsidies, and it's really.
And if you mentioned importations, I mean, wasn't there talk of from Argentina?
Food. I mean, the idea that we should be importing anything.
Yeah.
In terms
of food, grow here.
We should be completely self-sufficient as a nation at this stage.
And why do you think we aren't? Is it price?
Politics. I mean, partly it's look, I'm not going to blame the EU totally.
Yeah.
And of course there is a case of efficiency that, like we're known as a dairy country. We overproduce the amount of dairy and beef.
Okay.
So therefore we can, swap.
So we can, exactly, which makes sense. Yeah.
But I still think that we could actually be self-sufficient in terms of our own vegetables, in terms of most things actually.
Yeah, true.
And we're not. And it's you see all the vegetables we produce in this country.
Yeah.
They're more or less disappearing. From places like South America.
Yeah.
And I think that'll come to bite us.
Yeah.
I think it'll be very dangerous.
Of the parties speaking about farming, of course, Holly Cairns has a farming background.
Yeah. Fair play to
her. So they'll probably, if they get near government, they'll have a say in that. There might be a bit of a change in policy. What do you think?
Yeah, well, who's speaking up for farmers? There's such a small cohort involved in farming.
Farmers, I'd say,
not many people
speaking up for farmers.
But not many political people.
Well, people used to have this opinion, Neil, that farmers are very rich, and they didn't pay much tax.
Well, maybe once upon a time farmers were
but
more
in general,
rich than they are now.
But
right now, farmers are not rich.
Okay.
No, there's a few rich farmers.
So your solution is to use our own products, grow our own products, as opposed to importing.
I just think we need to put a lot more emphasis on food security and environmental quality and the quality of nature than we're doing.
Okay.
And I know that the previous government has made efforts in that regard, but I don't think they're anywhere near good enough. And I think we've got far too much traditional view of farming. I think we need to start looking at modernizing our farming sector and supporting people in rural communities, because I think rural communities are going to determine this next election. Yeah. And I don't know where they're going to
go. That's where some of the independents could benefit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, you might say, why are we wandering off talking about farming? But these are all topics that could affect how you vote. Okay, maybe only a smaller percentage on farming, but, we discuss health and housing and law and order. Any other factors we missed out? Education, transport. I think we've covered most of it, Neil, for the election.
We talked briefly about immigration. I mean, you and I might have views on immigration. I mean, I think everybody accepts that there has to be some level of control on immigration. I mean, that's logical.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of sort of the level of immigration.
And of course, the argument is always brought that the Irish were very, very lucky to immigrate to Britain and to America.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people also take the view that in many cases we can remember the no blacks, no Irish in London,
no dogs.
And so on.
Yeah.
So right. I mean, it wasn't always that lucky.
Yeah,
Irish people are great immigrators.
You could say they built a lot of England, because an awful of them went to the
Absolutely, and Irish people are generally very hardworking and decent people.
Nearly every president claims an Irish heritage. So there are numbers over there.
So do we owe a living to the rest of the world now? Is that the argument that these people are making?
I wouldn't think so, but I do kind of agree with you that we should be taking in.
There have to be rules.
Yeah, there have to be
clear rules, and they have to be enforced.
Yeah,
and I think.
Well, I think most Irish people have no problem with some people coming in. I think the worry there is that you're getting people coming in, but they're not being checked.
Yeah, but you see, I think one of the big that is a big concern for a lot of people, right? Yeah. And the problem is we have a bit
because that's given fuel then to right wingers.
We do have a bit of an issue with the border with Northern Ireland, because it does turn out, and the minister has admitted this, that
Yeah.
the vast majority of people who are coming in
Coming
are
through
actually
there.
coming over the border.
Yeah.
Do you know, they're coming from England.
Yeah.
They're coming from Scotland. You know, I mean, it's uncontrollable, really. You know, and then of course there's the whole issue of people not being checked, you know, coming in with documentation at Dublin Airport.
Right. That's right.
And then what do you do with them, you know?
And they have a situation where you're putting like a whole group of men in a certain area. And obviously there's people that have worries about that, particularly if they're unchecked, you know?
Well, I don't think anybody would agree that putting a whole group of foreign men in an area is actually a good plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know,
exactly.
like families, you know, I don't know how many examples of that there are, but there are examples of that.
Yeah.
And anyone who thinks that's a good idea, I think needs their head examined.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. The same as with tents all over the place. I mean,
well, who thinks tents are a good idea? Who thinks?
Nobody thinks tents, unless you're going camping, you know, nobody thinks tents are a good idea. But again, there's another argument for you then, Neil, is that people are saying, you know, we've an awful lot of homelessness in Ireland, and that's not being tackled. And maybe they reckon that the migrants are being prioritized ahead of that. What's your opinion?
Well, I go back to Finland and say that, look, they decided they'd end homelessness.
Okay.
And they kind of did.
Oh.
And what they house people.
Okay.
Do you know?
Right.
They made a.
So they put the money into house.
They put investment into getting rid of homelessness.
Okay.
And
are they on a smaller scale to Ireland, or?
Point out that we've got one of the highest levels of empty accommodation. In Europe. In Britain,
there's so much abandoned houses, abandoned buildings.
In Britain,
you know,
in Britain they have a figure of between 1% and 2%, right?
Right.
About 17 or 18%, right?
Yeah.
We have. If you took every homeless person in this country and you did up a house, one of the abandoned houses or the empty houses,
it'll take away a few off the streets.
It'll take them all. Many times over. You know?
But what about this tax on landlords?
So money can solve that problem.
Yeah.
But will money solve that problem?
Will money? Will
and yes, there will always be some rough sleepers, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because there are people who, you know, it's to do with drugs and it's to do with alcohol and things. But to be honest with you, when you start seeing, as you are now, families becoming homeless, or indeed young adults becoming homeless because their parents have died or family circumstances or something, and now they can't afford anywhere to live. You know, when that's the case, we have a real social problem.
Well, you know, you mentioned the abandoned houses. I was speaking to somebody on the council, and they told me that something like a 50-week turnover. Like, come on, you know, I could put together a team that could get a house done a lot quicker than that. What do you think the problem is there? Is it red tape?
I think a lot of it is. I think we've got a lot of problems with bureaucracy in this country. We haven't discussed that, but I mean the level of bureaucracy in every sector is going in the wrong direction. We're supposed to, with all these online systems, be more efficient.
But
the reality is
we're not.
Computer security and hacking and all this sort of thing. It's becoming actually less efficient than the systems we remember with the pencil and paper. I'll tell you, I went to a little cafe in Salt Hill called Coco's recently, and they came over with a pencil and paper and started taking our orders.
You couldn't believe it.
And you know what? It was so efficient. It was fantastic, and people really liked it. You know, and yet you've got these people, and they've got this little machine, and they're typing. And they're going,
apps. The old apps for everything.
Half an hour later, they're God, no, hang on, this doesn't work.
We're all guilty of that.
Your credit card doesn't work. No, it doesn't. And, you know,
that's true. Yeah, we're all guilty of that.
Like, it's supposed to be simple. But it really isn't. I mean, you know, things are becoming more and more complex all the time.
You wouldn't agree with Bertie Ahern, who wanted to bring in the electronic voting? No, because he said people still like
and I actually think that it's really, we need to be very careful of our voting system right now.
Okay.
You know, I think the old tally men, the political
you like
parties,
that side
I like
you
all
that side of it.
But I'll tell you why I like it. It's because people can individually see the transparency of how it actually works. They get to understand the system. We have a really good voting system in this country, and it's to our credit. It's at our peril that we go down the route of the United States or the.
Well, Britain is first past the post, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So that would have really suited the big parties.
Would we have a, you know, like, again, I might have slightly disrespected Simon Harris or Micheál Martin. But I would any day prefer to see people like that than Donald Trump or Joe Biden or you know, Boris Johnson or people like that, who you end up with these single transferable, you end up with complete, you know, like would anybody?
And it's not overly representative, to be honest with you. If there's one guy wins it,
and look at Britain now. They have this guy Keir Starmer. I don't have a lot of time
in Labour,
for him either.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, they got 30, less than 40% of the vote.
Right. Okay.
Do you know? And they get a huge majority.
Yeah. It's strange. Is that reasonable? No.
Do you know, in Ireland, at least smaller parties can put forward views that are different to the mainstream. There is a political system that kind of works. Coalition governments mean there have to be compromises. Some people say it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. We're now,
I suppose,
one of the richest countries.
Whereas you love the tallies. You love the tallies, Neil. I love the quick answer. You know, so I'd like
You'd like first past the post, would you?
No, not first past the post, but the whole thing of, you know, second preference, third preference, all this kind of stuff done, where it comes up then.
Well, we could do it mathematically quicker, and you
could. Why wouldn't they do it side by side?
It would be quick.
Yeah, side by side would be interesting, wouldn't it? To see what accuracies there are.
Look, I'm a great believer in technology and using it where appropriate. But the point is this, that simply by having the whole process done out in a way that people can actually see, feel, touch the votes, you can actually look at people, the numbers that they put onto them. You can look at the way that people voted.
Right.
You know, rather than somebody pressing a screen,
having it all done.
You know, and do you really trust that? Can you ever really trust?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you did them side by side for a while and see are there many differences.
I know, but you see, the minute that you say for a while, the minute that ceases, then the trust disappears out the window, you know.
And you'd have to have a system of how would you vote electronically, you know?
Well, they have it in other countries and people don't believe in it.
And how do they have it? Like, we'll just say, you know, Neil Brolcan is at home and he's about to vote, and then somebody comes in and threatens him.
Yeah.
So that's...
How do you know?
How do you know? Yeah. That's pretty one of the biggest...
You're voting on your phone.
Yeah, you're voting on your phone. Yeah.
You know, how do you know that somebody else hasn't taken your phone or they're not hacking into it, or you don't, actually.
Yeah. So you said it works in some countries.
No, well, I say they have it in some countries, but generally people don't love it.
Okay.
Whereas here, we have loved our voting system. It's pretty crude. It's pretty old-fashioned. People understand it right now. It works, and it stood the test of time.
Just the last issue, and I know I've said this a few times.
Can you explain to people?
This is the last issue. Can you explain to people when they vote? Now, first of all, we're calling on everybody to vote on Friday. There's no excuse not to vote because the polls are open from 7 until 10. Bring some ID, bring your driver's license, passport, student card, whatever. Do vote. And also, what Neil's going to tell you about here is why you should vote down the line. You just don't go in and give Johnny Mac 1 and then leave it. Why you should vote down the line.
Well, if I'm going to tell you, basically why you should vote down the line is because the principle is that every vote will ultimately count. So even if there are two candidates you dislike, you might dislike one more than the other, if you know what I mean. Okay. So the point is your vote can actually be crucial to who gets elected in the end.
Yeah.
So it is ideal. If you vote, do you want your vote to count? Not everybody does.
No.
Some people just want to register a protest and so on, and they can spoil their vote or whatever.
Justin the Turkey has won many votes over the years.
Yeah, and a lot of people will say, look, I only want to vote for a certain number of candidates.
And they'll only vote
for one, two, three.
Yeah.
You know, but if there are some candidates beyond that who you would prefer to see than others, then you might as well keep going.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Do you know, you might as well. And the point is, say you only vote 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Say you only vote number 1 for Sinn Féin, and then the Sinn Féin candidate doesn't get elected.
That's it.
Your vote doesn't count.
Yeah.
So if you have a number 2 on there, you might end up voting in Fianna Fáil or something, but maybe you don't want to do that.
Exactly.
So if you go further down, choice. But you know, it is better if you want your vote to definitely count for somebody.
Yeah.
Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right down
to 17
to the end. You know. And that's up to yourself.
Another point, and you explained it very well the last year, was with the voting. Okay, we do the first count, right? So we'd say I have 800 votes in the first count, right? And in the second count, I would get the SERP, I would get whatever, they limit all the small parties, right? So I might get some votes from there. Now, how does it go from there? So we've done 2 counts. I've got 800. I haven't made the quota. I pick up some votes from the eliminated candidates. How does it go from there on?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways that the counts basically work like this, that there's a quota, and the quota is quite simple. If you have 5 seats like we do in Galway West,
you divide it by 5.
You divide it by 6.
Oh, by 6, yeah.
And the reason you say 6 is because you just say what's the number. Basically, the number of votes will be what you're trying to calculate is the lowest number of votes which you can't be caught. In other words, if you get over a certain number of votes, let's say it's 10,000 votes.
Okay.
If you get 10,000 votes and there's only say there's 60,000 votes, right?
Yeah.
In the pot.
Okay.
10,001 votes means you can't be caught. And how do you calculate that?
Yeah.
There's 60,000 votes, right?
Okay.
So the quota would be 10,001. You divide it by 6 and you put 1.
Yeah.
So even if all the other candidates got 10,000 votes, one of them would get 9,999.
Oh, yeah.
And therefore, you couldn't, that's the total number of votes.
Okay.
So you can't get more than the total number of votes.
Yeah. Okay.
So therefore, it's the number where you can't be caught.
Okay.
Is the quota. So once people have reached that quota, they're deemed to be elected.
Okay.
And that's the way.
And sometimes candidates are elected without reaching the quota, isn't that right?
That's only at the very end when all the other candidates have been eliminated.
Yeah.
So basically,
if there's 2 left, me and you.
If nobody reaches the quota on the first count, then what you do is you just eliminate the one with the lowest number of votes. And then you distribute their votes.
Yeah.
And then.
So tell us about the distribution of the votes.
Yeah, so it's quite straightforward when you eliminate a candidate because you just basically find what's the next preference on the list.
Yeah.
And in some cases, there will be no next preference.
Right.
So basically, that vote just
gone.
disappears.
Okay.
But in the case that there is an next preference, so if you vote number 1 for Mike Garrity and number 2 for me, if I get eliminated, you're
going to get this, or
you're going to get my vote.
Yeah.
That's simple. So
and how about file, then? Where do they pick them? How do you decide which votes are going to be used?
Well, in the case of elimination, you use all the votes.
Okay, but we'll say that you have a certain amount of votes left. You were saying a particular area. How do you decide in that area?
Well, you're talking about surpluses.
Surpluses,
because say a candidate gets over a quota.
Yeah.
So they get 10,500 votes, let's say.
Your 490.
So then you got 500 votes to distribute.
Yeah.
Well, that becomes problematic. There's a number of different scenarios. One is that if there's 500 votes to distribute, basically, do you distribute them from the last bundle in, or do you distribute them from the whole lot?
All right. Okay.
And that's.
And who makes the decision?
Well, largely this is down to the returning officer. They're supposed to, as far as I understand it, distribute them from the last bundle of votes which came in. But say there's 3,000 votes brought them over the quota.
Yeah.
The question is, which of those 3,000 votes do you distribute?
Okay. Yeah.
And there's a certain element they pull them out randomly.
They pull them out randomly.
Okay. So there's a bit of.
So all your votes are there. You just go. Take one.
They have a methodology for doing it, and it is very carefully.
And why, Neil, would they pick them out of the last bundle? Is there any logic to that, or?
Well, the logic, it's a mechanical thing, to be honest. If you had an electronic voting system, you could work it out to the last decimal point.
You could. That's right.
And you could actually do it slightly differently the way it's done.
Yeah.
But mechanically and practically, what you have to do is pull it out of the last bundles come in realistically. So it's different for the first count. If there's a surplus on the first count, what they do is they count the whole
lot
number of votes, and they distribute the number proportionately, which is reasonable.
Yeah.
But if it's a later count, it becomes
there's lots of different bundles.
Complex.
Yeah.
So therefore, what they do is they simply take, whatever.
It seems unfair to me that they just take the last bundle, because the rest of them are then irrelevant, isn't that right?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of debates about what they do, and there's certainly.
See, that's where the electronic voting would be good, isn't that right? Because you could go right down and say,
it wouldn't, because the electronic voting was set up set up in such a way that it does exactly the same thing. It mirrors exactly the way that it is.
So it does the same thing.
What would be different is if you could calculate right down the percentages and actually proportionately attribute the votes.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't it be more accurate? There'd be no human error.
It could be.
Yeah. But I think from what you're saying, it's not going to happen.
Well, I don't know. What do you think?
I personally would like to see it in, but I'd like to see the Pian Louis work alongside it for the first couple of elections. And then if it was accurate, I'd go with it.
We did a pilot. People hated it. And
the machines cost us a fortune then to store.
Machines cost us a fortune.
Okay.
It was a complete white elephant, bit of a disaster.
Was it though? Because do you remember the ones in, wasn't it Dublin? Was it the Justice Minister lost her seat?
Nora Owen lost her seat.
Right, yeah.
And
but they were saying like that's it. Like she didn't have to hang around for 3 days, kind of saying, will I get it? Will I won't get it? Like there was the result presented. But I think you love the process. The whole thing of the tally man and getting the first count and then
the reason I do is because it involves people in the electoral process. They get to understand it. They get and that's important. It's about people.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the government is about people. It's not about some sort of numbers or some technical way of doing things. It's about human beings.
But it is kind of about numbers when it comes down to the vote.
Well, of course it's about numbers, and that's what we do. But the people can do it perfectly well.
Yeah.
Like you're not telling me that we don't get a good result as a result. It just takes longer.
It takes longer.
So okay, you want to speed things up.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe I want it like that. Bang.
You want to flash.
I want to flash like right. There's the go. There you seats. That's it. Move on.
Yeah, but there's an issue of trust, and
there is. Yeah, I agree with you on the trust issue. Yeah,
and there's an issue. Yeah. I think. Look, I mean, it only takes a day to count.
Unless you had a system where people still went into the voting hall. Okay, and they had a computer in front of them, and they were saying that nobody was influencing them. Like when you're in the box, nobody can come in after you. You're given your little area to go in with your Pian Louis, right? And they'd vote there at the actual centre itself, but it would be an electronic vote.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying?
That's what we did.
Yeah, but is that what? Did you bring people in?
Yeah, that's
to
what
do
we
it,
did.
Right. Well, and
we had electronic machines. Where you press the button.
So you press the button and stuff. So what was wrong with that? How did that fail?
It failed because people didn't trust it, and because people didn't.
And did they check it? Did they actually do?
Well, that was the issue.
Yeah.
That they didn't actually have a paper trail on it.
So you couldn't say
they didn't have a check.
Yeah.
So it just came up with a number, and people didn't trust it. It was some cartridges, and one or two people could have, literally 2 people could have completely skewed it as far as we'd known, changed it by 3 or 4%. And I made that argument, myself, that if somebody had, there's a very small cohort of people could check us if there was massive fraud going on.
Yeah.
And, at the moment, there's sort of 600 tallymen in Galway West or 300 tallymen who'll be pouring over the votes. And if there's one vote incorrect, they'll be, oh, there it is, that one's wrong,
That's what an X as opposed to
whereas you have a situation where you could have thousands of votes being electronically skewed, potentially, if there was a level of fraud by 1 or 2 people actually checking these things.
Okay.
Do you know? So
I do know what you're saying,
that's the system that they created. It was putting it all in the hands of 1 or 2 technologists. And that's not something that people trust.
Okay. So
and should they?
Trust issue.
Would you trust that?
Well, I
would
think.
You let me choose? Would you let me electronically check the whole voting system, and then you'd find suddenly lots of Greens got elected, and you'd say, oh well, there's nothing strange here to see.
Well, I suppose everything is a bit open to that, isn't it? So I know you're going to say that
the paper system has checks and balances. They've developed over generations.
Yeah.
There's checks and balances. Yeah, look, it's not perfect.
But isn't it funny in this day and age, right? Where we are so computerized, we all have our mobile phones, many computers, and yet, we rely on voting with the pencil and the paper. Does that not feel kind of unusual to you?
Well, I personally would go back to a lot of stuff by pencil and paper. I was just telling you the story about how I preferred the cafe, where they took down the sort of orders on the pencil and paper. But maybe I'm just very old fashioned, okay?
Yeah.
But I have a preference, and that's the beauty of democracy. We all have different ideas, and at the end of the day, we come up with a solution.
Excellent.
The one which is there does work.
Yeah.
It's a good one. And I think if you tinker around with it,
you could get
strange results,
Do we have any more comments before we wrap it, Neil? Just have a look at your side there.
Yeah. I don't know that I've got any comments on this, but I think
I've got a few, but I think we've covered
pretty much it. We've done a good job for an hour and a half you know,
which some people would be saying is probably an hour
broadcast. Yeah,
I mean, we achieved our goal, which was to have a chat and a debate about election 24.
Problem is, nobody's going to watch this now, Mike, because an hour and a half. Sorry, it's actually an hour and 40 minutes now.
Yeah.
So we've indulged.
We've indulged ourselves. We've had a very good chat. And
so if there's anybody still listening, all I can do is
I reckon Paul Campbell is still listening, because I'm looking at his comments here.
You deserve a medal. That's all I can say for listening to all this.
Well, you know, we put the world to rights, Neil. That was our ambition. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you.
Very enjoyable.
Until the next time on Galway Politics Live, we'll return.